I resemble that remark.
You think the end's coming, or
Every day is one day closer to the end. So,
indeed? All right, so welcome to episode 96 of Farm to Market. This is the show where participants get 5 minutes to state their opinions, and the person with the most time at the end wins, but there are no prizes. Today we're talking about 24-hour options contracts, boomer homelessness, impromptu videos, and Feedforward. So Wall Street Journal ran an article about 24-hour options contracts. And basically, the point that they're trying to make is that these 24-hour options contracts, it's more like gambling than it is like a legitimate investment product. What are your thoughts about 24-hour options contracts?
I by and large agree with that assessment that they're more akin to gambling than they are a legitimate investment. When at least me, when I think of investing, I think of I'm buying shares of like an energy company that's been around for 100 years. It pays a dividend. The company's growing. It wants to return profits to shareholders, that kind of thing. And when you think of something like options, I don't think investing. I think speculating, and that's the fancy financial term basically for gambling. Speculating is largely when you take your money and you buy something, or quote unquote invest in something that has a very, very high risk of failure. There's not really any great particular reason why it should make money, but it might. And if you kind of just describe it in vague terms, it's not really clear if you're talking about an options contract or a roulette wheel. So to me, I just kind of look at it as that. As far as whether or not most people should do it, I think the stats speak for themselves. I believe it was in that article, but it might not have been. I think that more than 70% of people who trade in things like options, they lose money. So, it sounds like a casino almost. Like most people will lose money and a few people will make money off the losers. So I don't think really anybody should be doing it. If you decide to do it, make sure you're not doing it with money you can't afford to lose. And if you are going to do it, then make sure that you're willing to lose 100% of your investment and you're totally comfortable with that. If you are, then, and if you're willing to take the risk, so be it. Beyond that, I don't think most people should be involved at all.
I agree with Alex and this article. It's 100% gambling. These short-term 24-hour options contract, there's no two ways to cut it. It's a gamble. And just for our listeners out there, just to kind of go over it real quick, an option basically gives the investor the right to buy certain shares at a predetermined price at a predetermined time. Now, it's a great way to leverage your money. If you have $500, well, you can buy $500 worth of options contracts that gives you the right to purchase $10,000 worth of stock at a certain price. So your returns can be really, really great. But the downside is you have to pay a premium for these options, and the premiums usually expire without it being in the money. So you're out the cost of the premium. Basically, this ultra short options trading world is like a casino, and people who like to gamble think that because they listen to Jim Cramer or read the Wall Street Journal or have a subscription to the Motley Fool, think that they're not gambling, they're doing something wise and they know more information than other people out there. But that's not the case. The real winners in this are the people who are writing these options contracts. These are the pros. They know what they're doing. A lot of times these options are covered, so they own the underlying stock, and they're just selling these options contracts at premiums to these gamblers, and they're getting stinking rich, making billions of dollars. So I echo Alex's advice. Don't do these short-term options trading unless you like spinning the roulette wheel. There's no place in it in the investment world.
Even in the people who try to make it a legitimate investment, most options go out to like 2 years or 1 year or 6 months or 3 months. These types of options, they actually expire within the day, sometimes within a couple of hours. So really you're speculating on what the price will be 2 hours from now. That is nothing but pure unadulterated gambling. I tell our clients, stay away from this stuff with a 10-foot pole, because the odds of you losing everything you invest is extremely high. When I first came in the business, the statistics were if you stayed in the stock market for one day, if you bought the S&P 500 and held it for one day, you had a 51% chance of making money. I mean, it was virtually 50-50. If you held it for 1 year, then the odds of you making money went up to like 71%. If you held that investment for 5 years, then the odds of you making money went up to 95%. And if you held that investment for 10 years, the odds were you're going to make money. With options, 70% of the time you're going to lose money. And when you lose it, you lose it all. So stay away from it.
So you're saying there's a 30% chance I would make money.
Yeah.
There's thing Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I gotta say, so you're saying there's a chance. The only way I see this is not 100% gambling is if you, whoa, it's like Apollo 13 in here, geez. The only way I could see like where a 24 hours options contract is not gambling is like if you want to hedge against like an earnings report or something like that, because some of these technology companies have some pretty outlandish forward earnings where they're trading at like 10 to 20 times current earnings, and it's really hard unless if you're thinking about getting out of stock and you don't want to dump it too soon, but you don't want to hold it for 5 years. I can see where maybe a 24 hours options contract might come in just to like hedge your bets a little bit. If you're going to have a really tumultuous earnings contract, in that case, I could see that may not be 100% gambling. But the article, yeah, these guys are just like keyboard jockeys that just want something to click on and a chance to make money and something cool to talk about around the water cooler. So I don't see that they have a lot of practical value. It seems mostly like gambling, but there are a few instances where I could see where a 24-hour contract might be handy. But ultimately, I'm not opposed to having more options out there. So they want to trade.
Well, I'll kind of even with those one-off situations, it's still a gamble because a lot of times earnings. You hear what the analysts on Wall Street say. Be like, let's take Tesla for an example. They had record earnings this year. Their stock dropped 8% after earnings, even though they've never made more money. The difference was their profit margins were lower than analysts expect, and they didn't like that. So even if you're predicting that earnings are going to be good or going to be bad, you still have no idea what that stock's going to do when they come out.
That's what I'm saying. But you're not predicting it. That's what you're using as a hedge. If you hold the stock and you want to hedge the position ahead of an earnings, like you put a
but you'd have to buy an option and a put,
yeah,
or a caller. But
yeah, I mean there's ways to do it, but what I'm saying is that you may not want the long-term hedge on a position. You might just want it through like the earnings season. Yeah, so
I don't know if I would pay the premium for that kind of risk, but I see the strategy, I guess.
I mean,
in the article, they weren't interviewing the co-manager for the Virginia State Firemen's Pension Fund. They were like getting Biff Johnson, who lives in his mother's basement and trades at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Or they showed the guy at the poker table. He's like, he's playing poker. He's like, yeah, I also am really good at options too.
Yeah. But like if you were like in like like some of these artificial intelligence like companies, like insurance companies and stuff like that just got hammered after their earnings call, even though the earnings call was good, it would have certainly been beneficial if you had some sort of hedge out. The premium would have been worth it. That's all I'm saying. All right, moving on. So a lot of articles about homelessness in the Wall Street Journal lately. The most recent one was that what appears, or at least what the Wall Street Journal alluded to, is that there's an increasing rate of homeless baby boomers. Now, what do you think? The article made some assertions as to what might be the causes, such as like increasing rents. What do you think the reason is for an increase of homeless baby boomers?
Well, I think it's a combination of what the article talked about, which primarily was rising rents. Outside of a few dozen major metros, rents and housing prices are going up pretty much everywhere. And even if you own your home outright, that still means insurance and taxes are going up unless the insurance companies cut rates, which they're not going to do. And, states or local governments cut property taxes, which they may or may not do, depends. The other thing is, I know I've mentioned this before, but if you are part of the baby boomer generation, on average, your peers were pretty bad at saving for retirement. I like to think that most of our clients who are baby boomers were better than average. We've tried to do our best for them, but if you look at the stats, and I know I've mentioned these before, but the average baby boomer household, the median, has about $200K saved for retirement, and has a $1.2 million net worth. And what that translates to me is that the baby boomer generation that has saved for retirement pumped all their retirement money into their house, not into a retirement account. And when you are getting ready to retire, you realize you either have to sell the house or reverse mortgage it to get any of that value out of it so you can start buying groceries with it. What the article was talking about is people who had done none of these things. It seemed like they were the people who live paycheck to paycheck. Rent went up 30%, and Social Security cost of living adjustment went up, 3%, and all of a sudden they're out on their butt. So I think it's probably the biggest one based on the article and based on the data is probably a lot of people are just finding that they can't afford to live in their homes or their apartments anymore. And unless they're willing to move a decent distance, they're probably not going to find anything in their immediate area that's a viable alternative.
I think the symptom is certainly that rents are going up. Why are baby boomers being squeezed financially? Well, the article alluded to in most cases it was rents. Rents are going up, mortgages are going up. They just can't afford it. They're on fixed income, Social Security. They're on the streets. Now you could peel back the layers of the onion further, and why are rents going up? That could be, I guess, another topic. I only have 2 minutes, but this was a very discouraging article. Because no one wants to see people become homeless, especially baby boomers. But I think it just underscores the fact that you need to really take financial planning seriously your whole life. Start early if you can and plan for catastrophes because they are going to happen. Our Wealth Builders milestones, it talks about getting out of debt, it talks about buying a house, it talks about paying off your house. Well, if you're in your 60s and you're still renting and rent goes up a little bit, well, that could be catastrophic. There's ways to prevent that. And I really do believe that anyone can make it if you do some planning and you work hard. Another point to throw out there is there are a lot more baby boomers than other generations right now. So I think as these baby boomers are maturing, it's just raising the numbers as well. So I don't think it's just baby boomers more than anybody else are becoming homeless. I just think there's more of them. But overall, it's a pretty sad thing.
Homeless is not necessarily a group problem. It's an individual problem. So every individual has a different set of circumstances that get them in that particular situation. On a holistic thing, what we see different between the baby boomers and the generations before them is that they don't have defined benefit plans. Our parents had options where they worked for a company for 40 years and they got a $3,000 a month paycheck. Well, the baby boomers, we start to see, at least the younger baby boomers don't see those pensions. So all they have is Social Security, and Social Security was never designed to replace your income. Secondly, is that government regulations have really driven up the price for shelter. We hear all this talk about affordable housing. Well, when you start putting all these different mandates at the municipal and state and federal level, it makes the cost of shelter extremely high. That means not only for people who buy houses, but for municipalities that actually provide homeless shelters. If you have a litany of different rules and regulations to run a homeless shelter, a lot of municipalities will say, we'll just avoid doing that. So there's a lot of different reasons why there's more baby boomer homeless folks. But for our clients, the big thing is that don't be those folks. For one, don't move to Naples, Florida, like the woman in the article, which is one of the most expensive places on the planet to live. Consider moving to Gary, Indiana. Secondly, is that consider moving close to your family so that if things get tough, you can move in with your kids. But the idea of living by yourself in a very high rent district, and then you lose your cheap rent, you're going to be caught in between a rock and a hard place.
Joe stole the words right out of my mouth because I was going to say, Gary, Indiana is not. There was actually an article in the Wall Street Journal about a week ago saying how they actually wrote an article about how depressing Gary, Indiana actually was. And Drew, didn't you live close to there, or like, didn't you live
I
in
worked
Gary?
in Gary for many months. Yeah. Mhm.
And you think it's nice there, or like what?
I'm biased because I worked on the railroad, and the railroad always goes through the worst part of every town. So it was still pretty rough when I was there.
Yeah. But I looked online. I looked for the average rent for like a 2-bedroom condo in Gary, Indiana, is like, on the higher end is like $825, like almost 70% lower than this place in Florida that the Wall Street Journal was citing, which the average rent there in 2023 was $2,833. So at some point, I'm curious about people's decisions. I mean, what keeps you in Florida? I mean, would you rather live somewhere that's like nice and live on the street as opposed to move somewhere where you can easily, more easily afford rent? Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Is like when I see all these people out there, they're like, things are they're they're not affordable. But I'm like, I look at places like Gary, Indiana, and if you lived in like Grand Forks, North Dakota, or like Williston, North Dakota, granted they're not nice places to live, but the cost of living is way cheaper. So if you want a roof over your head and don't want to sleep on the streets, why would you not move to like one of these places? I mean, is it mental health issues that keep you there? And I guess I'm legitimately asking, like, what is the driving cost between keeping you in Florida versus going somewhere where the cost of living is like 70% cheaper? So,
Good question.
all right, moving along.
I guess we could ask all the people who flock to Whitefish, Montana, who come here on only have Social Security to live off of, and then complain there's not enough affordable housing.
We could do that, yeah.
Well, part of it too is, you could live in a place that's relatively affordable, and over 10 years, it becomes completely unaffordable pretty quickly. In addition, what might keep you there is, family, friends, and maybe the only place you've ever lived. So, and moving is not cheap, especially if you're bringing your stuff. So if you're leaving your support network, your family, your friends to go, save money, that, may find yourself in a worse situation than you are living in a car or a trailer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I guess I'd have to see, because it seems like if it was getting to the point where you couldn't afford that, you could make those decisions and do that ahead of time. But I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak out of ignorance, but I'm just legitimately curious, what causes people to stay there. I'm running out of time. Jesus, I must have talked a lot here, but we'll go on to the next one. So I guess restaurants and bars have become hotbeds for impromptu videos as customers capture the exotic experience of dining out. At times, the patrons like to catch workers reacting to a prank. Some videos have gone viral online, attracting millions of views and turned waiters, servers, and bartenders into unwitting bit players in skits. While many workers don't mind being featured in these videos, especially if the creator tags them, others hide behind the counter or spend their shift on high alert, wondering what fresh hell or hilarity awaits them. So these people, they go up to like McDonald's, they order like a bunch of lemonades, and then they do like they pour the lemonade on them or something like that while their friend videotapes them, and they get like the genuine reaction of the person who served them. Do you think, I mean, is this just like how bad, like, are the people, are the waiters, I mean, is it really like a disservice to them to do this kind of stuff? Is it worth like having like your YouTube video blow up at the expense of the person serving you? Or is it just completely disrespectful for them? And what do you think?
I would say that, a lot of these I've seen are pretty funny, but I don't really like the ones where they create, problems, like real problems for the waiters, so like if you just go through the drive-through, there's a prank where you take the biggest soda you can come up with, order it, and as soon as they hand it to you, you just take the cap off and throw it back in the drive-through window and speed away. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's like, no, I don't like that, because now you're just creating problems for other people. If it's funny, fine. I just don't care for the ones that make the employees' lives miserable.
This is nothing new. It's just exploded with smartphones. It's kind of like what after GoPro came out, there was a lot more extreme sports injuries because people are like, "Whoa, watch this! I can share this with the world. I'm going to try to do more things." So the youth is just going to become more knucklehead-ish. They're going to become more of knuckleheads. It's really annoying in my opinion, but I agree with Alex. As long as you're not doing any harm, it's just the world we live in. But you're going to get a bunch of eye rolls from the older generations.
Well, the older generation needs to go back and remember what kind of pranks they used to pull, but they didn't have videos. So when they would play Ding Dong Ditch, or where they TP somebody's house, or they put a burning bag of dog excrement on somebody's porch so that they would stomp on it and get dog doodle over their feet. It's just the 21st century young person's idea of having a good time.
Yeah, I don't like when they make the employees, they make life hard for them. Otherwise, it's kind of funny.
You came up with those examples way too fast. I want to know what you did when you were 12.
Alex does that at the local McDonald's. You like, yeah, just kidding.
Check out his TikTok videos.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. You want me to throw your handle up on here so people can watch? Analyze this, yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's see here. Okay, so employees around the country have good news for workers who dread chats about their performance. Feedback is on the way out. Many companies, executive coaches, and HR professionals are looking to erase the anxiety-inducing word from the corporate lexicon, and some are arguing it replaced by what others see as gentler and more constructive word, feed forward. What are your thoughts on using feed forward as opposed to feedback?
I kind of hate the whole corporate buzzword thing where you change things around just a little bit for, warm and fuzzy feelings. But I guess if it gets the workers to do a better job or makes them happier, then whatever.
Yeah, when I first read this article, I kind of did the eye roll thing, but then I thought about it. I don't have a problem with this. If corporations and leaders and management want to change some words and it really gets the best out of their workers, they're happier, less attrition, less turnover, then okay, that's great. I don't think that the game has fundamentally changed for leaders and managers. They still have to get the best out of their employees. They're working with different employees. So I think people get angry at the new soft HR management techniques, but where they should really point their fingers is at the generation of workers. These are the people that are saying, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. They're basically creating this new environment. So, again, that's just the world we live in right now.
It's interesting. I'm a troop master of a troop of boys. We have 21 boys between the ages of 11 and 17, and we do not mollycoddle them. If they do something right, we tell them. If they do something wrong, we tell them. And we're rather quite brash compared to the kinds of things they're trying to do in this article. And what I'm fascinated by is that if kids are really this sensitive, why is my organization exploding with membership? I think what the fact is I think that this generation is dying for truth, and they're searching for ways. They don't know how to communicate and articulate their need for truth. And what's happened is that their employers are just hiring experts who don't have a clue about how to be a manager of a company, and they're giving them bad advice. I'd say just be really good at telling the truth and treat people the way you want to be treated.
This is kind of like akin to using the green pen versus the red pen to mark up your paper when you're in school. It's like I guess I don't care like what color you use. Like I don't know. I just never cared, right? So when you say I have some feed forward for you, like I guess I echo Alex's sentiment when I'm just like we're gonna do this. Ultimately what you're doing is not changing. Like you can call it whatever you want, but ultimately it's the same thing. So
Yeah.
all right. That's it for today. Drew, congratulations. That's your first time in the winter. Is this your first time?
It's not my first time. We've done this 95 times?
Yeah, but
I
how
think I
many
had-
times have we
I had a few wins.
had the clock going here? Like,
I think I got cheated. I was watching it. There was lots of seconds coming off mine, even though I wasn't talking.
Yeah.
all right. Well, congratulations to Drew. And all right,
I'm talking to HR about this one.
Next week I'll just do one word answer so I can finally win one.
Give him some feed forward after we get done with the video call here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. That's it for episode 96. So I will see you next week.